Welcome back to Rimworld, you beautiful people. So we are starting a new series off, and apparently we're already under attack by a fennec fox, so we'll grab one of the orcs, send them over, and a second one as well. Right, so this is a new series, hence why it's episode 1, and this is 1.3 ideologies. Pretty simple reason, all of our Mass Effect ones, despite keeping it at 1.2, yeah, they all ended up developing bugs. I tried using my hard copy saves to, well, keep the playthrough going, and for whatever reason the mod manager wouldn't work, and because the mod manager wouldn't work, that meant that we just kept black screens every time that we loaded up. So went and brought ideologies, and then updated to 1.3, and this is what we have now. This is the Adeptus Mechanicus Xenus Orks mod, if that makes sense, along with a bunch of other ones. Interesting things about this. So, Orks are pretty useless. They can't do a lot of jobs just in their base things, other than a couple of them who I tinkered with their stats a little bit. But you get these things. These are snotlings, and snotlings count as creatures, but they can do basic tasks. So they can do growing, cleaning, hauling and repairing, which makes them quite useful to have around. And you can also spawn more of them, a little bit of RNG on it, when you build some of these. So you just go into your grow zone and then you go orcoid funguses. That is the food for the orcs, but it also can sometimes spawn these little snotlings and also squigs. A couple interesting points with the orcs as well. We have started with 5 sets of flak armor, 5 helmets and 5 steel iron gobs. Reason is, the orcs love attacking each other. So you know when people have a mental break and they go berserk and attack each other? Yeah, the orcs just do that on a whim. You can't control it, from what I've been able to see. And it does not take long for them to wipe each other out. So if you start on a little bit of armor, they don't take as much damage. We are also going to start with a couple guns, just because orcs are very bad at getting any research done. And also their research is quite up in the tree, so I figured give us a couple guns to tie us over, give us some armor so that we can actually have the guys with a little bit of survivability, I think is how I describe that. Are you going to be able to? No, you're being weird there. Oh, it's because you're on draft, forswear this. And yeah, we'll get them all armoured up and then we'll be back. And now the orcs are armoured up, I do really like the modelling on them. So the orcs are pretty massive and they grow with age. So they start just a little bit bigger than a human, and then over time they'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Hopefully we don't lose our first snotling this early on, that would be a bit of a shame. And let's actually go into work priorities and get everyone on firefight, everyone on patient. The orcs can doctor onto doctor, and then everyone else onto bed rest. So like I said, snotlings start as animals. So we go into the animal tab, here they are. We'll get them all to be trained up, and because we have the advanced animal frames, we can give them guns. Which means that you can have snotlings running around with like pistols and that, which to me just seems rather quite fun. We are on an arid map, so as far as resources goes, wood is not really a thing, which is a bit of an oversight on my part, seeing as Orky Tech requires quite a lot of wood in the early stages. So we'll set this up, we'll try to get as much wood as we can, get some walls going, and then I think the next thing from here is we're going to have to put in a dumping stockpile zone. Something like this, and this will be just for chunks. And we should have granite and marble, yep. So then we'll get a stone processor down and start bringing through that and start banging up some walls. So we're on about day 2 and we already have 4 orcs in the hospital room. They will just go and beat each other down the first chance they get. So it normally says up here about the fight risks. They're kind of like mental breaks, but if you look actually at the mood of the orcs, they are in really good moods. But they just love kicking each other in, which can cause you a little bit of problems. So say you're going into a fight, you got everyone drafted, you're moving in, there's about to be a big scrap. Orcs love scraps, and then they'll literally go into berserk state and then just start beating each other down first chance they get. which, as I imagine you can tell, is less than ideal. Which means that what we do need is lots of heal root, hence why we started with 120. That's more than we normally would, but we will run out super quick otherwise. We're also going to get some cloth on the go, so we're going to have cloth, shrooms, rice and heal root. We're going to need to build a slightly bigger fungus garden so that we can at least get a consistent, I guess you call it consistent, supply of snotlings and squigs coming in, because they are super useful. Orks don't like menial labour, so having these guys to do it is pretty good for you. Also, where they are not colonists, they don't take up as much demand on the game. So you can have lots of them and the game will still play pretty smooth. And right here, again, another fight. So Madders has been knocked out by Gorebuster, and then we've got Gosgrob trying to heal them up. This is why they are in armour. Otherwise, they just don't last. It's all of my, I guess, trial episodes so far basically just end up with the Orks just killing each other off super quickly, which is less than ideal, has to be said. But what we will do is, as soon as they stop kicking each other in for about 5 minutes, we're going to have the stone processor going. With the stone processor, we're going to start giving them rooms. And hopefully if we can spread them out a little bit, they're going to be less likely to be in contact with each other. And then they're not going to be able to kick each other in. And then when you get grots, yeah, the Orks kill the grots pretty quickly most of the time. Thankfully they don't beat up these guys, which is pretty fun. Or good, I guess. But yeah, the grots come in, and yeah, they just don't last long. So you've got to try to get them in armour pretty quick. Otherwise, yeah, you're just not going to have them. Hopefully this should keep the Orks quite happy for a little while. We got a raid coming in. So who had the shooters? So Gosgrob and Gorebuster, which means we're just going to move these two down. These guns should be more than enough to take, well, these little tribals out. Orks are also cannibals, so they can eat human meat, absolutely no worries, which means that we always are going to have a pretty steady supply of human leather, which we can sell for a pretty decent amount, or we can start turning it into armour for the Orks. At the moment, the armour that the Orks have got is going to be better than anything we can produce for quite a while. So yeah, Orks are more likely to kill themselves than these tribals are. Other side, Orks cannot shoot to save their lives. Hence why the Orks guns fire so quick and shoot so many rounds. Did try this on Combat Extended, but unfortunately, even though it says it is compatible, it is not. The armour has no armour value, basically, which obviously is a bit of a problem. And then the guns have messed up armour penetration as well. But I think this one is ours. And again, this is why the snotlings are super important. All the Orks are in bed, resting, and it is just the snotlings going around doing the work. So once they're finished planting everything, they then go around, run around, haul stuff, and then repair walls and do all the cleaning, which works pretty well. But Orks just aren't fussed about too much. So we're going to needs, slept outside, slept on the ground, so it's only -1 apiece. Does have bloodlust, so got quite happy for killing people. Oh no, that's different, that's war. Cool. Oh, that's interesting. Is that in your bio? No, he does have bloodlust. Okay, interesting. That is something that we will need to keep an eye on. And already we are on about day 6, and we have used 90 odd herbal medicine. Yeah, these Orks are, they basically come around, regain consciousness, beat the one up next to them, and then go unconscious again. So we've got Gorebuster and Ragewalker. They are about the only ones that are able to do anything right now, because these guys just keep fighting each other. Which I think maybe, because the Orks don't get penalised for being in a big room together, but I think if we can spread them out a little bit more, then hopefully the plan will be off the back of that, that they aren't as close to each other. If they aren't as close to each other, maybe they won't fight each other as much. And who knows, maybe them having their own rooms will keep them happy. So we're going to try that out, see if that works, because otherwise we are not going to survive particularly long if all the Orks are continuously knocked out. which obviously will be less than ideal because that'll be a very short series and a very short playthrough. We'll sort the rooms. The rooms are going to be pretty basic. They're not going to be unison. This is Orks. They will just put up some walls and then put a door in. And then figure out if it works. With the first harvest of the Orkoid fungus coming in, we do have a very small chance. And I mean, it is super small. So at the moment, we've got 6 snotlings. We might get a 7th snotling out of this as well, or we could get a squig. And you also get multiple different types of squigs as well. Like you get oily squigs, which produce chem fuel. Then you've got, I think, like meat squigs, which the orcs eat for meat. We now have a 2nd fungoid garden over here, and then a 3rd one down yonder. Once we can start reliably harvesting and producing them, we'll move away from the rice. But we needed the rice to start with, because without it, our orcs would have starved. We did have a bunch of cobras come to join us, and in classic Orky fashion, we went and killed all of them, which means we're going to have to bang down a butchering spot pretty quick. So if we just go into production, and then the orcs have their own skinned wooden butcher spot. So we'll put that in there, and then we do have an orc that is going to be able to do the cooking, butcher all of them down, and then we're also going to need to get onto simple meals at some point as well. Walls are coming in quite nicely, and it seems now that the orcs are spread out a little bit, they are not beating each other half to death every day. So we're actually getting somewhere. It is now like day 12, and we have achieved absolutely sweet all because the orcs spent most of that time in the hospital. Classic orcs. And our first proper event is kicking off with a mech cluster coming in. Auto charge turret followed by 3 mini sluggers and what looks like a lancer. Yes. Cool. Now that's not going to be super scary for us, and this is also a new addition. So in 1.2 and before, you used to get like ship chunks come in. Now on these ones, you start with like ancient cars, and sometimes, if I can find one, like big old battle mechs kicking around. So ancient troop carrier, then what's one of these? Ancient giant wheel, so that must have come off something pretty massive. Bunch of tribal stuff over there. And yeah, there's these big old like war walkers, and they come in like different parts as well, which is kind of cool. Rage Walker got in a fight with Gorebuster. Gorebuster gave him an absolute kicking, and now he's down to 52% health, and he also has muscle parasites, which is super fun. Didn't manage to break down the cobras in time, so they are kind of going to waste. Had a trader come in, so we sold off a bunch of fungus to them for about 1,000, yeah, for about 1,000 silver. Once the mods get increased so that we can have better traders, this is going to be a lot better because we're actually going to be able to sell some stuff instead of sitting on a stockpile of things that's just going to push our wealth up, which means that the attacks are going to become more dangerous. The base is growing quite nicely, I'd like to say. So down here we have the Big Mech's workshop, which is coming along somewhat slowly because we don't have any power, so we can't actually use the orc crafting supplies. And then over here, our weird boy has set up his research lab in the corner. It's a little bit too big for what he needs, but details, it's what he decided, so that's what he's got. The rooms are going to start changing because that is all a bit too unison, and I think it should just be like more chaotic. So instead of having hallways and that to get around, I think most places are just gonna, you just go in one door and out the other. So having that there doesn't really make sense, so we'll move that to there, and then move that down to there. So then, just as orcs do, it would just be, he wanted a bigger room, so we just moved the walls so his room was bigger. Yeah, I think that's more orky than trying to actually set them with rooms that make sense. They're just going to start moving their doors and their walls so they can have a bigger room than the other orcs, because that makes them more important. And seeing as they're not beating each other up as much, but they're still scrapping, but they're a little bit more spread out, so it's harder for them to get in a fight. So there's an extreme fight risk on all 5 of the orcs. But so long as they don't come too close to each other, generally they're alright. But if they stay in the same area for a length of time, then they'll just start kicking each other in. Yeah, I think this should evolve quite nicely, and it's just going to be like some mad, sprawling, chaotic like one building base that's actually spread out into a bunch of other little bases. Still haven't got any extra snotlings, unfortunately, so we're still only running on the 6. But there is a manage auto slaughter button, which is quite cool. So say if you don't want anything more than, say, 10 of a thing, you could just change that to 10, and then if you get more than 10, they then go and get killed off. And then you can also change it to the amount of males you want, young males, females, young females, and then pregnant creatures as well. Which works really well because you can just keep everything proper in check, because everyone knows if you've got a bunch of rabbits and you leave them for too long, they end up just overrunning your colony. Now, there are a couple things that we need. So we need a weird boy, because this is part of our religion. So if we go into bio, we do have a weird boy set, so just here. So we're going to get Gutses, a sign roll, and then we are going to put him into our weird boy. And then we also want Gore Basher. And with Gore Basher, he is going to be the war boss. So now that is 2 of the 4 roles filled. We will need a Flash Git and a Mega Knob, but they are things that we're going to be working on. It has been a while since our last raid, and now the mindless cutters are coming in. And they have a decent sized raid, even though they just managed to take most of themselves out. But details, it looks like they're going to clear out that Mechanoid cluster, and it seems that they've got a few weapons on them, which is going to be good for us. And also Orks get a mood bonus from wearing tainted apparel. Thankfully this time around the Orks are actually in some sort of fighting shape, so we're going to move down here. And that being said, whilst we remember, let's go put in some embrasures across it, so at least we have a place to shoot from in the future. Because if this raid is already this big, they're only going to get bigger. But I think we should have this pretty nicely. The rest of the Orks don't have any weapons at the moment, but we are going to be able to pick up a whole bunch of weapons from these Shumis. And then whatever we don't use, we are going to be able to salvage and break down into other parts. Not that we can really make any weapons, but there will be a time when we can. And having the extra resources is going to be quite useful for that. And the puny humans are already fleeing. Snotlings are coming down, dropping off the supplies, which is quite helpful for us. And did any of you actually have anything good for us? Rad grenades, auto pistol, a Barties, a shotgun, or a Bites. Cool. Let's take him down. Not that you actually had anything great, particularly good, but an extra shotgun wouldn't go amiss. Cool. Well, that is done. This area here is sorted. And we've got a whole bunch of human corpses, which we're going to be able to break down into some leather. So eventually, once we have the base in some sort of situation where it can be left alone, we'll go off and trade. Orks can carry a decent amount. I think it's about 80 odd kilos. And if we go into the world map, we do have some other Orks close by, other than these ones are hostile to us. So Guts' room has expanded. So you had to go through Guts' room to go into the research lab. So he's basically just bolted his room onto that, which seems pretty orky. And then we also got Madus, who is our big mech, whose room is now attached into the workshop. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Rage Walker, yeah, he just keeps getting a kick in from just about everyone else. He keeps losing all of his fights, so he's a bit of a runt of the litter at the moment, not doing super well for himself. He still has a melee of 10, which is pretty good, but he does things that runt herders normally do. So he's plants and animals. He's got a little bit of medical, but yeah, Gore Basher just keeps bashing his head in, which I think is quite funny. Then over here we got Cosrob. He doesn't really do a massive amount at the moment, so his room is just there. And then these two rooms are unclaimed at the moment for some reason. Oh well, the Orks will have them when they want them. Rage Walker has been sent off on a quest. Well, not really a quest, but a trading run. And we just got ambushed by a tribal. And for whatever reason, in my infinite wisdom, we did not give Rage Walker a weapon. Now, a tribal shown up who has a little shank, but against a fully grown Ork, I think Rage Walker should be pretty fine. So Green's just going to get beaten down. We might, if he's not bleeding out. No, he's bleeding out in 7 hours, and I don't imagine you got any. You do have 2 herbal medicine on you, so can you If we move that wall to there, we should be able to patch them up and then use them as a pack mule. So yeah, Rage Walker's going to go and do this. Hopefully, yep. Go patch them up. Can you medic? Yes, you can. And then we are going to have a human pack mule that we're also then going to be able to sell off as a slave. Oh, right, so we're not going to get a massive amount for green, so that's only 58, unfortunately. But they do have 3 Gretchens. Now, this is a different thing. So, you can have join as slave, or you can have join as colonist. Now, we'd want them to join as a colonist. Slaves work pretty good, but they require a little bit more maintenance. In a lot of ways they require less maintenance, but in some ways they require more. Now this one could be quite useful because it does have good construction and does have passions in plants, animals and crafting. Chemical fascination is not good, incompetence not good, clumsy is not good, night owl's not going to be super useful for us, careful shooter sucks. Yeah, no, they're actually going to be awful. Now let's try the grotling. Good with plants, good with animals, good with construction, good with mining. Talented groundskeeper, lazy, cold tolerant, iron willed, wimp and xenophobe. Not what I'd describe as amazing, that is for sure, but potentially useful nonetheless. So we're going to pick them up. We'll sell them all of the cloth, which is why we're here. You can have all of our human leather, and let's actually see if we can't get anything good, because if we can get, yeah, like big shooters or zap guns or rocket launchers, that is going to be better for us than an extra slave. But what we would like is some mega armor. They do have heavy armor, which would be pretty tasty if we can afford it. So I'll tell you what, we won't get the slave, but we'll pick up some heavy armor. Now, heavy armor is good, but it's not amazing. So 92% sharp, 92% blunt, and 92% heat. So across the board, a decent spread. Movement speed of 0.5. Would prefer mega armor, that is for sure. And do we even have enough for it? Yes. Okay, well, not a wasted trip. That could be quite useful, but maybe a big shooter would be better for us. Our Orks are already in armor, thinking about it. And a big shooter is a pretty mean piece of kit. So it does 9 damage, which isn't great, 32% armor penetration, which isn't bad, but 36 shot burst count. Terrible accuracy, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is you just get a few of them, and then you just spray down an area, in proper Orky style, which would actually net us 38. As Gorbasher is winning most of the fights, we are going to put him in the number 1 slot. He's already got the War Boss trait, and we are going to equip him with the big shooter. Seeing as Rage Walker did go and get the gun, and him being Ork and Orkily cunning, he has hidden it away, so that is now his. So we have gunned up. Well, we should have one more gun somewhere. Oh no, Gorbasher's got it. Cool, so we've got 4 guns on the Orks. And with microelectronics finished, we're going to chuck in some power finally. So we're going to put in 2 wind turbines. Off the back of those 2 wind turbines, we're going to go production. And then we also are going to need to chuck in a Orky high-tech research bench, which looks pretty smart. I rate that, I really do. Let's put in a tool cabinet behind it so it gets a work bonus. And then we can deconstruct these. From here, we can actually start going into some more interesting Orky tech. So what we'll do is we'll go into armor, and then hopefully that will allow us to go into heavy armor so we can produce this ourselves. With this heavy armor, the Orks aren't going to be able to beat each other down as much. And then we also need a multi-analyzer. So armor first into heavy armor, then we're going to go into multi-analyzer. From the multi-analyzer, that means we're going to be able to start kicking out some proper heavy Ork armor. And a cheeky little mechanoid cluster coming in. It's pretty small, this one, so they do have a centipede. This isn't combat extended, so they are not super dangerous. And 1 auto inferno cannon with 2 ciphers and a mini slugger. Which yet again, nothing actually super scary there. But if anything comes from the top side of the map and cuts into that, we don't need to worry as much. Gorbash, seeing as he is top orc, war boss, he has decided to expand his room this way, so that is now his. Then we got one set of, wind turbines that have been put in, and then we're going to get a second set put in as well. So at least we can actually produce some power, because we are now working on the old heavy armor. With the heavy armor, we're going to be able to kick that out. That's going to be decent. It's not going to be amazing, but it's going to be pretty good. And our orcs don't seem to be fighting each other as much, because we seem to somehow have created the base in a way that they don't really come into contact with one another. As for the snotlings, they're doing okay, but still, yet again, we haven't been able to harvest any more of them from the actual fungal patches, which is a bit of a shame. That would be useful to have more snotlings running around. And yeah, that is super orky. I rate that. So I think what we are going to need is a few of these down at the entrance to the base, just so people know they're coming into orc territory. And eventually we're also going to be able to get a war banner as well. And with that war banner, that's going to make everything seem a little bit more like it is meant to. Chem fuel reactor or generator. Chem fuel powered generator, that's the one. That looks super orky as well. That is cool. And just realised I haven't connected the power lines up on this part either. So we'll get all of them in. And Gorebuster, do you want to go call in a slave ship, I think? Or a recruiter ship? Freebooter slaves, that is what we want. So called a couple ships in just to see what was happening. So we got the freebooter slaves, recruitment ship, merc ship and slave ship. Now, no snotlings. They do have a couple grotlins and a few orcs, but they all join as slaves, which isn't super useful for us because we want actual colonists. The mercs did have a couple. They do have this guy here who's a warphead. 11 in crafting, which is pretty decent, 7 in construction, which isn't bad, and 9 in intellectual. He doesn't have a talent, xenophobe, psychically sensitive, very neurotic, stiff, chemical interest, poor hygiene, and feeble. I'm not sure you can have feeble and an orc mixed together, that doesn't quite make sense. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Then we've got this guy who is a slave, 11 in construction, that's not bad, 9 in mining, 6 in plants, 5 in animals, 6 in social. But he's got social, but he's also unconvincing, nervous and xenophobe. As of the moment, nothing super interesting for us, unfortunately. We'll sell them a couple bits, and they can't buy anything. Amazing. With heavy armor now finished, we can start producing our own heavy armor. I guess that makes sense. Okay, do until 5. And let's start kicking them out. And let's go and see. Oh no, it just looks like it is steel and a component. Let's go 8 on crafting. I think we have a level 8 crafter. Yeah, Maddox. He's got level 12, so we can have him kicking out some heavy armor, then we'll have him kicking out some heavy helmets as well. We got a little bit of a kitchen area set. We are putting in some overwall coolers, just so we can store the food into this area, because we just lost about 10,000 orcoid fungus, which means we won't now sell it, which is a bit of a shame. And then we'll drop a orbital trade beacon in there, so any food that we have excess of, we are going to be able to sell off. Not that we got 2 chefs, but it's quite a big room, so figured just chuck an extra stove in for the moment. Now this is super useful for us. We just had a new orc join. Gorbad has come in. He's got 5 in construction, pretty useless shooting, decent melee, double burning passion in crafting, and a double burning passion in intellectual, which is actually awesome. I think that actually makes him our best crafter and best intellectual. Rage Walker got knocked out again, and Madders didn't actually come out too well off that fight either. So we really need to get that heavy armor out, or our orcs aren't going to do so well. Because if we get attacked anytime soon, well then we'd be in trouble because we're 2 walks down. All of them now have guns. We got 1 big shooter, then a whole bunch of standard shooters. Gorbad doesn't have anything, but he does have a flak vest. So we'll give him the Arbites shotgun, but we are not expecting miracles off that. And the cycle has begun again. the orcs are all kicking each other in, and as soon as one orc gets kicked in, or that means two of them get kicked in really, then they come into here. And then when they wake up, they attack the medics. Thankfully, Gorebuster's pretty tough, so he's able to knock most of them down. So what I'm thinking is, if we have a hospital, we need to make it like multiple small hospitals, or we just end up getting stuck in this chain of getting people healed up, and then when they heal, they attack the doctor, or they attack one of the ones that are sleeping, and then they end up back in here. So we might actually just have to do it as a bunch of wards. So we'll still have one set hospital room, but we'll just have a wall in between each of the beds, which will then split the orcs. And if the orcs are split, so we'd have like walls in between and then doors, so they have their own little chambers. They can't go and kick each other in because they'll be in different rooms. That is the plan, and looks like the snotlings can do a little bit of moving base bits around, which is super useful. And this is our makeshift ramshackle hospital right there, and it seems to be doing the job sort of. Only issue is they fight in the corridors and then they fight over here, but at least they're not beating each other up when they're trying to sleep and recover, which I will call as a minor victory. Or that just happens right there. Rage Walker, you need to be in some armor super soon, because you are just taking a kicking continuously. Not that he really does too much for us right now, but still, we want more people up than not. And it would appear that we have a traitor who is Gorbad, and he's got a shotgun, and Gorebuster, you are in super close. Getting some cover and try to spray him down. But yeah, that's why orcs need to shoot so much, because they are super bad at shooting. Gorebuster just got Trauma Savant, which is decent enough. I'm not sure why that was turned off. Okay, cool. How much of a kicking did you get? Yeah, you got a few. You're not going to be the smartest orc going, that is for sure after this. But we are now down to 5 again. First suit of heavy armor is done. We are going to give that straight to Rage Walker, because yeah, he is definitely not doing well, and that armor actually looks pretty beast. It is good quality, so that is not too bad. I think standard was 90, so this has 105% sharp and blunt resist and heat resist on top of that. So that hopefully will keep in the fight a little bit longer, and these suits of armor get kicked out super quickly, which for us works really well because we just need a whole bunch of them. So, well, we'll have 5, and then we'll get on to 5 heavy helmets. And then we probably also need 5 jaw plates, but that'll be sweet. Once that's done, hopefully a bunch more of the research is also going to be done, and looking to get some more reliable power. So we might go into geothermal after we get the multi-analyzer. That will keep our power production up. And some pesky tribals have decided to come in. Now let's have a look round, make sure everyone has weapons. It would appear that nearly everyone is equipped. Matters, I know you keep getting knocked out, but I'm going to need you to go into Guts's base and try to get some weapons, or a weapon. And the rest of you to your defensive positions, try to get in before the pesky humies come in. But we should just be able to spray them down. They are tribals. It doesn't look like they're going to be sapping in. And if they get in a close combat with an orc, well, they are in for a very, very bad time. Issue with the orcs is their body size is a lot bigger than the standard humans, which is why they can carry so much and have so many hit points. But it does mean that they are very, very easy to hit. Get up to the walls, make sure they can't use them against us, and then just shooting them from here is going to be brutal. Maybe not as brutal as I thought it was going to be, but eventually they'll hit, and then these guys are going to be done. And yeah, we get a few more big shooters. We might be able to get a twin link big shooter at some point, which would mean that we could put down so much firepower that even though they don't have great armor penetration, just the amount of hits going in is just going to ruin things. Guts, whereabouts are you? You're over there. Come down here, buddy. And Matters, come down here as well. Probably need to do something with this side here. the stone stele got destroyed, but not an issue. But I think they look pretty smart at the entrance to the base. But this does mean a whole bunch of human leather. Human leather sells for a decent amount as well, and then a whole bunch of human meat. And like I said, the orcs don't mind eating humans, which works out pretty well for us. So extra food, extra leather, and then maybe one of them has something useful, and then the orcs will just wear it anyway. This could actually be crazy useful for us. So we have a large infestation happening well away from the base. But it does mean if anything spawns into this area and has to come through, they are just going to get nuked out by a whole bunch of big bugs. And they also have a queen who is going to produce a whole bunch more larvae. And yeah, so we have an infestation on one side, and then we have centipedes, well, mechanoids on the other. As for the armor, we are only waiting on one more set of heavy armor, and then that should be all of the orcs equipped up. Then we just got to go into helmets, and I think we will be looking at, we do have an elephant wander in with a bunch of kit on it. That, for what it's got on it, I would say is a little bit of a danger close. It's not going to be worth it. Getting through the iron in, well, the steel in this part of the map, which is allowing us to make the armor. And that armor does get produced super quickly. Multi-analyzer is nearly done. No, that is still what we're working on. And then it is into geothermal. And from there, I think our base should be pretty secure. So things are going pretty well for us so far, but these bugs on the other hand, there is 13 megapedes, 15 royal mega spiders, 6 gigalocusts, a lot of cephalopedes, and an insectoid queen. We are going to need to pull out something magic to take these down. Alternatively, if everything goes super wrong, we can just pick the embrasure up, drop it across the front here, and hopefully they don't tunnel through our defences. All of the boys now are in the heavy armour, so that's heavy hard hat and then just standard heavy armour, which is super good for us. Geothermal is researched, the first one is in. Then this one only needs 8 components, and this one needs a whole bunch of resources. We're going into the bionics, because from the bionics, if we go over here, we can go into the mech tech, which will give us the crude bionic arms, eyes, legs, and spine, which is stuff that we need. But we'll probably skip that and then go across to Big Mech Brains, where we should hopefully be able to get some better kit, hopefully, he says. But more DACA would be good, so we could get a big shooter or we get a twin linked shooter, which is going to be a very, very awesome bit of kit. And then after those are done, we can go into the mega armor, which we just need the Big Mech Brains for, which means we just need the Big Mech Tech. So we're only waiting on bionics, so we can go Big Mech Tech, Big Mech Brains, and then into mega armor. Once we have that mega armor, we are going to be pretty much nigh unstoppable. It is going to be awesome. They're going to be some very scary, very powerful, very dangerous orcs. And I would say not bad for a first episode, even though it has been about a year and a half. So with that, I'm going to have to wrap the episode up. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Conzi. All your likes, comments, sub support have been amazing. You know what you need to do for the algorithm, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.